Might be in theatre, you're going to ready to go on stage.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting and also to the virtual gallery. We will now perform the acknowledgement to country. I would like to start the meeting by acknowledging and extending my appreciation to the Jagera people, the traditional owners of the land we're standing on today. We pay our respects to leaders and elders, past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions, the culture and the hopes of the Jagera Wurrung people. Now for the prayer. Almighty God, we ask you to be present in this council, direct and guide our deliberations. We ask you to grant us wisdom and sensitivity as we deal with the business of Central Goldfields Shire. May each decision that we make advance the well-being of all our residents. This we pray. Amen. Thank you. Number 2 on the agenda this evening is apologies. There are no apologies, and it's lovely to have everyone back around the table. Thank you. Item number 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I request to be excused the item on community grants. I am the president of the Central Goldfields Football and Hiking Club Inc. and also I'm on the Bollingdale Hall Committee, and they both have applications, so please may I be excused during the night.
Thank you. And you'll remind me at that point to pop your name down. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes from previous council meetings. Do we have a mover for those? Councillor Murphy, do we have a seconder? Councillor Green. All in favour of the minutes?
Oh, I wasn't here, so...
No, that's right. So we'll do just a little division there. All in favour of the past minutes? Yes. You weren't here at the last? No, of course. So can you note that councillors were here and who weren't? Thank you. Item number 5, minutes of delegated and advisory committees. There are none. Number 6, petitions. On the 4th of August 2025, a petition containing 200 signatures was submitted to the Central Goldfields Shire seeking a dedicated soccer facility for the Maryborough Soccer Club. The petition has been assessed, contains specific requests of petitioners or signatories, and is in accordance with the governance rules. It is met. Thank you. Item number 7. I might have the motion. Who would move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Green. Anyone against? All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Speak to the motion.
Moved it.
You moved it? Yes, you can move it. Yes. No one. All right, thank you. Items number 7. Officers' Report 7.1, which is the first report on tonight's agenda, and that is entitled Audit and Risk Committee Charter Amendment. And the officer's recommendation is on page 19. Councillors, do I have a mover for this motion?
I'll move that one.
Councillor Bartlett. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Would you like to read the recommendation?
Yes, Mayor. Council adopt the amended Audit and Risk Committee Charter with the attached appendices.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Villiers. Is there anyone against this item? No. Councillor Barton, would you like to speak to the item?
Yes, I'd like to speak to the recommendation, Mayor. I note from the report, the Audit and Risk Charter was adopted at the February 26, 2025 council meeting and had no changes from the previous one, but it was adopted without the referred appendices included in the charter document. Now, as this was basically in the infancy of the new council, and it was very much a steep learning curve for especially us new councillors, lots of information overload was probably contributed to this oversight. And so basically for the gallery's benefit, the definitions of the missing appendices were to do with 1, the roles and responsibilities of the committee members, 2, the Local Government Act guidance notes for members, and confidentiality agreement documents for the members to sign. So tonight's recommended motion is very much an exercise in dotting our I's, crossing our T's, and I wholeheartedly support this motion.
Councillor de Villiers, do you wish to speak to this? Would any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion. All in favour? That is unanimous. Moving on to 7.2, which is the second item in the report. End of financial year 2024-25 financial statement, performance statement and governance and management checklist. This is on page 30. This is on page 37. Councillors, do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Bartlett was first up.
Yep.
Would you like to read the recommendation?
That Council gives its approval in principle to the annual financial report and performance statement for the financial year 2024-25. 2, nominate and authorise 2 councillors to certify the financial performance statements in their final form on behalf of the full authority of the council.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Green. Councillor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would, Mayor. I noted in the officers' report section on page 39 of tonight's agenda some important points to highlight. One was the financial results for the financial year 2024-25 represented a year of major challenges. 2, major business decisions. Point 3 was the finalisation of many multi-year projects, as well as point 4, the impact of decisions made by other levels of government. So it's important to recognise in paragraph 2 that it was, there were many influencing factors we are facing, and it's a sector-wide issue. It's not just the Central Goldfields Shire suffering from. In paragraph 3, the officers report that the council has recognised over the past few years the ever-increasing pressure on councils, and in response to this, it adopted its first financial sustainability strategy in June 2024. Continuing on, whilst this strategy does not impact the results of financial year 2024-25, providing guidance on future decision making for council, and ensures council is doing everything in its power to take control of our own financial well-being. I'm sure with the appointment of our new CEO and the interim governance, the finance officers, we've highlighted our shortcomings and placed a renewed focus on fiscal responsibility, have seen us turn a corner, which is what I believe. We still have challenges because of cost shifting, and our new appointments are facing that head on with a experience and knowledge and addressing this sector-wide issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Green.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add to agreement with Councillor Bartlett. Thank you. Wise words. The council is obliged to effectively create this report, pursuant to sections 99, 100 and 131 of the Local Government Act. I just wanted to convey my appreciation to the executive management and consultant staff who we're most indebted to their very fine work in this area.
Thank you. Any councillors against this motion?
I think it's so
Councillor de Villiers, do you have?
Speak for.
So you wish to speak to this motion? Certainly. Okay.
Thank you. Just something that I have been toying with and studying and really focused on is the cash position of council. And it's always been a focus for me. So I would just like to say that as a small rural council, we are reliant on capital grants from both federal and state government. Today, I would like to highlight the cash position of council as reported on page 39 of the agenda. And what I would like to highlight is that the cash position changes every day. The table on the next page is pinpointing a moment in time because the cash position changes constantly as money flows in and money flows out. But what I would like to do is I would like to ask clarification from Mr. Shane Marr. On the table on page 40, the previous page states that to determine the true cash position, council needs to consider the restricted cash. Now, that's always been a term that I really struggle with, and it states that cash that is tied to restricted cash is cash that is tied to a specific project or has to be used for a specific purpose. So, Mr. Mayor, if you can maybe just highlight the next table, explain unearned revenue specifically related to cash position.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to respond to that. Unearned revenue is money, we've received the cash, but the revenue is not recognised at this stage. And the main example which makes up most of this is in relation to grants, where we've received a tied grant, and they're generally for capital works, but the works haven't been done yet. So we haven't had the expenditure to match with the income, and that's generally will happen in the next 12 months. So we need to set that money aside because we know what will be spent then.
Okay, so it's already been allocated?
It's been received. The cash has been received from a cash point of view, and it's been allocated from either a capital works or an income statement to a specific project.
Okay. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Yes.
Can I just, councillors read the recommendation. They need to authorise and nominate 2 councillors to sign, and we need to actually state who they are.
Okay.
And it's normally the mayor and one of the representatives from the Audit and Risk Committee.
All right. Thank you very much. So, councillors, we do that nomination now. So,
If I may, through Barry.
Completely for something against, and then deal with that
at the end. Okay. Thank you very much, Shane. All right. No one against this motion? Given if you're against this motion, would you like to speak to this motion? Go ahead.
If I say we're in dire straits, we're not in dire straits. Everything's explained about how the money comes in and goes out. And that's how it's been explained to me, and I've looked at it over a number of years at this council and other councils. We just have to be fiscal and financially responsible. This council, like other small councils, just cannot go and just do things off the cuff. We have a budget, we run to the budget, and some people might say, well, I've got to do more of this or more of that, but we just can't do that. Like, we don't have the money for the footpaths this year, so we don't do the footpaths. So what it means is we, as a council, have got to be fiscally responsible to what we have got in the budget and how we run the budget. And then the officers, through the CEO, can see that and how we are to look after the budget and make sure that we're running in a mode that will eventually give us, probably to me, a couple of $1 million in cash over a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else, any other councillor wish to speak? Given there was no one against this motion, I'll put the motion.
to determine the nominees.
Oh, we'll,
The mayor and the second
we'll determine the nominees now then. Is that correct?
recommend someone.
Yeah. Would you like to recommend?
And
You can do it. I've done it.
Recommend that, Anna.
Okay,
All those
so I have to say yes.
favour?
No.
The mayor and Anna.
Anna.
Yeah.
Mayor and Anna.
Thank you, thank you. All right, that's noted.
Yeah.
We can move the motion. Now I'd like to move the motion.
So with Anna
With
and Billy.
and Councillor de Villiers and the Mayor. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now I'll put the motion, all in favour? And that's unanimous. Moving on to 7.3, which is the third report. Yes, you certainly can, councillor. Councillor Long has left the room due to a conflict of interest. So the third report is Community Grants Program 2025-26 outcomes and amendments to the support policy, and an officer's report is on page 113. Do we have a mover for this motion? Councillor Murphy. Would you like to read the recommendation?
The council endorsed the proposed interim amendments to the community support policy, which clarifies the council's role is to note rather than approve allocations. 2, note the outcomes of the 25-26 community grants program involving 17 projects valued at $36,496. Note that a more comprehensive review of the community support policy, community grant guidelines, application form and related processes and procedures will take place prior to the 2026-2027 funding round to review and embed further appropriate and considered probity and fraud mitigation measures.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do I have a second of this motion? Councillor Green? Councillor Murphy? Anyone oppose this motion? Councillor Bartlett?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Murphy, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is basically a noting of what's been done already, approved already by council officers, but basically by a committee of X, Y, Z, not the councillors. The councillors are noting what's come before them, and they're noting that because of so-called state government fraud and mitigation. They're noting that. So it's another thing that us councillors get pushed to the side because they think, someone in state government think we're going to do something on the side of X. And you can see that Councillor Long walked out the door because she had a conflict of interest, like we all would do. But this is important for the people and for the organisations that got to get on with getting their furniture, their computers, their whatever else it's in their, what they've been granted for in that $36,000. So if we don't go forward with this tonight, it'll be another month or whatever, and they can't go forward and acquit it, and we need to acquit it. Whilst I find it a bit strange, and I know what's going to happen down the track, it's going to be stranger. It seems to me, most likely, we as councillors will just be noting this and won't have any say at all, which we don't have now. So this is the reason why we are doing this. On the other point though, we didn't get enough people putting their 2 bobs up. You know, we've got Shay Stales here, furniture here, that here, but we don't get enough of these applications, and I think that the community need to really know about it now for when they have to do it in 6 months' time or 8 months' time, so they can get ready to do it and get support. Because we really, instead of having X, Y, Z, we should have another 10 applying for it, for something. And then whoever makes the decisions can look at that on the basis of those of how they have to make a decision. So I implore to the community that, and the organisations, to, if you think you've got something for next year, which is probably got to put in about May, something like that, June, go forward now. Ask the officers, how do we do this for next year? Don't wait, and then get ready to do it so you're not putting something together in a hurry. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Green, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to clarify that 19 applications were received and 17 applications were successful. My understanding is that the 2 unsuccessful applications was not based on anything of any huge import, but rather the structure of the applications themselves required a bit more work. I just wanted to let, as Councillor Murphy rightfully said, we need as many as we can to apply. But those 2 unsuccessful ones and others to note, along with Councillor Murphy's great suggestion to look into it now, is that there must be certain structure and style to the applications, and those 2 unfortunate applications which were on this occasion not successful were just missing a few threshold matters, and so they are encouraged to contact the council, as are all applicants, in order to be helped and assisted as much as we can for their applications. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open up the debate. I voted.
I've got some comments.
You're against this? It's not voted, but you're against.
So as this report notes on page 113 of the agenda, in the summary purpose section, in paragraph 2, it outlines amendments to the community support policy as well. So these amendments have been brought forward so that council's consideration of this year's allocation is consistent with the Victorian Auditor General's Office, or VARGO, report into fraud control over local government grants, and that was from 2022, and with current best practice. Specifically, it clarifies that the council's role is to note rather than approve the allocation of community grants. We have 3 recommendations we've all heard before. Each one of those actually just states about noting rather than council boards deciding. It's just we only note from now on. Again, I also note on page 114, paragraph 2, in the legislative and policy context of the report. The amendments clarify that council's role in the assessment process is to note rather than approve the allocation of successful applications as recommended by the assessment panel. So this change strengthens probity and reduces the potential for conflicts of interest by ensuring council does not become the decision maker in individual funding allocations. So it was difficult considering parts 2 and 3 of the motion for me. Caused me great consternation, especially after reading through this report from VARGO from 2022. Now in this VARGO report, is this VARGO report legally binding? Is like the question that I would like further clarification on, or is it just recommendations only?
Clarification as to whether you can clarify that.
Because in my reading of VARGO's actual report, I know that of the 6 councillors mentioned in the report, or who made submissions, and they were investigated, it's just all submissions. And their responses to VARGO were varied and in many instances not accepting of the Auditor General's report and the recommendations included on page 7 and 9 of the report. So that has caused me consternation as to how to deal with this motion. The report is just a report, and the councils aren't legally held to it. Well, the policy changes we're making, puts a different spin on it for me. We now have administratively moved to having an officer-only panel to assess the grant applications. And in effect, for me, that removes the community's elected representatives from the process. And I felt that it was very disheartening to lose our councillor's voice within the application process. So I fully understand the need for probity and the scrutiny of conflicts of interests, which is outlined in our report too, as the officers now doing the assessment have had to complete conflict of interest declarations. It's noted on page 114 of the report as well. So that begs the question from me, what would have been different if the panel was made up of elected representatives and council officers, a 50-50 split, so to speak? It's been a conundrum for myself, a tough decision to make, as I want to agree with part 2 of the report, where the community groups get their grants, but I may very well stand alone. I cannot endorse parts 2 and 3 of the report. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak to this report? Councillor Murphy, Councillor Green,
No,
Councillor.
I want to come back to it.
So you had your hand up.
Yeah, I've got the right to reply
All right,
after Benny.
Councillor Green.
I thank you for Councillor Barker's comments. I would share the a lot of the thrust of your sentiments in respect to the imposed probity, where, if I may suggest that it seems a bit heavy-handed, and for councillors like ourselves who take our roles very seriously might feel a little bit as if there's a boot on our throat, and there need not be a boot on our throat. However, at the same time, I understand and appreciate, of course, the authority of Vargo, and also note that there is a fine balance sometimes, because I'm on many CACs. I know that none of the CACs on which I sit were applicants in this stage. Otherwise, I'd be like Councillor Long, having to remove myself in view of an actual or perceived conflict. So it's a sticky situation, but in the end, I'm glad the community groups did receive almost $37,000. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Reply.
Right of reply, yes.
I can understand totally what Councillor Bartlett's on. I'm just here to get this through and get the community groups get their money, which we have to do. But I can understand for probity and Vargo, and at some time over this next 6 to 8 months, we will have a say within this council. We'll debate, talk about things in briefings, not debate, talk about it. That if council officers have to sign a conflict of interest, there is no reason why not. A councillor doesn't have to sign a conflict of interest and make decisions on this. I sign conflicts of interest, and I don't make decisions on things which involve me. Elizabeth just walked, Councillor Long just walked out the room as a conflict of interest. So I've been, this thing with community grants, 5 or 6 years here, it's changed through Vargo and through some unscrupulous council laws in other shires or other councils doing things for their mates. If you just walk out the room on conflicts of interest, like I wouldn't, if I, and there was 20 or 30 organisations, and one of them, I'd walk out the room. I wouldn't even try and make a decision if I was making a decision in a group, in a tick situation. But I understand your point of view, Councillor Bartlett, But I'm saying to the other councillors, we have to get this going for the community, and then we need to work on this in the next 6 or 8 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of this motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against this motion? Councillor Barton. Thank you. The motion is carried. So now we're moving on to item 7.4, which is the fourth report on tonight's agenda, and that's entitled the Central Goldfields Shire Council General Local Law 2025. The officer's recommendation is on page 140. Councillors, do I have a mover to this motion? Councillor Long. Thank you.
Just fire up my laptop, just bear with me 2 seconds. I would like to move the recommendation that Council endorse the proposed interim amendments to the community support policy, which clarifies whose role is to note rather than is it the wrong one? Sorry, apologies. Yep, note and accept the clarification of the Central Goldfields Shire Council General Local Law 2025 by Macquarie Local Government Lawyers dated 20th of August 25. Note the proposed local law has been prepared in compliance with subsection 74(3) of the Local Government Act 2020. And number 3, adopt the Central Goldfields Shire General Local Law 2025 and authorise public notice in the Victorian Government Gazette, local newspapers and council website.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Do we have a second of this motion? Councillor Green. So do we have anyone against this motion?
May I abstain from the motion?
In the voting? We'll go to Councillor Long. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move that Council note and accept the certification of the Central Goldfields Shire Council General Local Law 2025. This particular piece of work has been 2 years in the making. Indeed, when I was first elected to council in 2020, one of my very first constituent meetings was in regards to a dirt bike noise complaint. It was hard to tell this constituent that our local laws were not up for review till 2025 and that there were no specifics about dirt bike noise in the then local law. How wonderful it is now to have a set of local laws that addresses this and much more. So what are local laws and why do we have them? Local laws are specific to each council, can often vary from one part of the shire to another to suit community needs. They cover diverse topics such as unsightly land, fire safety, animals, roadsides and reserves, parks and footpaths rating, planting on nature strips and much more. It is a much larger document than before, which is a good thing, I believe, as it addresses a multitude of situations that were not on the radar back in 2015, such as drones and e-scooters. They weren't around then. It introduces 33 changes and amended clauses. This includes either a substantial rewrite of the law, the introduction of a new clause entirely, or clause deletion. Other proposed changes and additions cater for the decade ahead relating to shopping trolleys, and we all hate seeing them littered around the place, shipping containers, burning in open spaces, animals, camping, and dogs in public spaces. This new local law has been produced due to a power of work by Central Goldfields Shire officers and staff and was started back in 2023 when council went out and met with people on the street. And I'm sure we all remember the ads with Poncho the pug and Jacko the little biker. It seems like a lifetime ago, but they were really good videos. I would like to commend our CEO, Mr. Harriet, and General Manager Infrastructure Assets and Planning, Ms. Riggs, and her team on bringing this important item to council tonight. There has been a lot of consultation on this, as you can imagine. Our community had their say online with nearly 100 people contributing before formulating all this information into the new proposed local law, and many sessions with council. I believe one of our sessions went for 3 hours. This then went out for public consultation with more tweaking and editing at its conclusion. And here it is, finally. This set of local laws and the changes in it will provide council officers the ability to respond to both existing and emerging community issues. It's a set of local laws we can all be proud of. I know that I am. Thank you.
Councillor Green, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I echo the fine sentiments of Councillor Long. I'd just like to reiterate that the laws in their form, the result of substantial, significant, robust refining and debate, and we as councillors poured the acid on many parts of this, and the document, in my view, shows that it's well laid out, it's clear, it's unambiguous, and I commend all the officers involved as well.
Thank you. I now open up for the debate. I asked that question. Yes, I did. Is anyone opposed to this? I'll ask it again. And you did mention that you're abstaining. Would you like to, anyone like to talk to this, Jared?
It has been a long time in the making. It has been going 22 onwards. And there's been staff that come and go. But there's been staff that come and go. But it's the consistency of getting this local law going. Because if we don't get it going now and making it happen for the next 10 years, which we can still look at it over next year or the year after, we get lost. And as Councillor Long was saying, there's 34, 33 changes in it. Some things have gone in, some things have gone out, which in general, I'm very happy. Some things I go, oh, it's a bit weird, but I understand that. I understand some of the things that I just don't find I find personally a bit strange. I understand that. So what I'm happy about with the local law is we're getting to the thing where people do the right thing. Neighbour up the road is doing the right thing. They're getting a planning permit to build a big double garage and all that. This is just out there. They've got the whole lot, they've taken their time, they've done it. Another person who lives down the road is not doing that. They're just building something or bringing in 2 containers that hasn't had a permit. People who do the right thing do the right thing. Suddenly you see these containers, which is what I'm on about, containers everywhere, and you're going, residential containers. That's interesting. But it's the people who do the right thing. The people with the smallest voices need to be protected because they're doing the right thing. They're working hard to get their planning permit. They're going through everything with their planning permit, and eventually the planning permit should get there. But then there's people who just do. This local laws and everything protects you from walking down the street with a dog. From everything that we do, it protects. And then we can talk about and go over it. But I commend it. Like I said, there's some things which I don't agree with, but I'm not going to agree with everything in life. I don't agree with my hairstyle, but I have to deal with it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any other councillor wish to speak to this? And you have decided to abstain, or do you wish to speak against? You'll abstain. All right, given it's a vote against, you've got right to reply, Councillor Long.
Oh, I don't know what I'm replying to. Just want to reiterate that I think it's a really great document. It is a bit lengthy, I'll give people that. However, it is set out really well, and a few things that I asked on clarification have been picked up. So, I'm really happy with the document, and I don't think I'll be around in 10 years' time to see the next lot, but until then, I'm happy to work with it.
Probably would be. Thank you very much. I will now put this motion to a vote. All in favour of this motion? All against, with abstaining is against, one against. That is carried. You can call a division. I'd like to call a division. All those in favour? Councillor Meyer, Councillor Murphy, Councillor de Villiers, Councillor Lavella, Councillor Green and Councillor Long. Those against, Councillor Bartlett. Thank you very much all for staying. Thank you. All right, we now move on to item number 8, councillors' reports and general business. The next agenda item, are there any items for discussion here? Does any councillor have any reports of general business that I'm not aware of? No. Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 9, notice of motion. There is one notice of motion on tonight's agenda. Is there a councillor?
Number 3, not number 1.
Okay, it's number 3 notice of motion. It's noted in the agenda as number 1, it's number 3 notice of motion. Is there a councillor who wishes to move this motion? Councillor Meyer. Would you like to read out the motion?
As per the motion on page 190, that's all. It's pretty long. So,
Is that fair enough? Do you have a seconder to this motion? Councillor de Villiers.
I would like to make an amendment to the motion, please, and I would like to see if someone will second me.
Councillor Murphy, you've made an amendment to the, would you like to
Yeah,
read
motion.
your amendment?
I'll read the amendment, and then hopefully someone will second me. Near enough to what the motion is, but with a few tweaks. Council note that the objectives, this is for the Maryborough Community Garden. Maryborough Community Garden. The objectives of the Maryborough Community Garden, Inc., the organisation, including the provision of community gardens and the growth of fresh and healthy produce, to meet the food security needs of our community, align with council plans and strategies. There has been extensive consultations over a long period, with representatives from the organisation in relation to the location of the Maryborough Community Garden. Despite considerable efforts to explore the location of a base gardens for the organisation at the designated California Gully site, there are current concerns by the organisation that the location is unsuitable for the needs for a variety of reasons, including accessibility and layout, and that further conservation accommodation is highly unlikely to be unfruitful. There is a continued and clear preference by the organisation to be located in the rear 53 Burn Street, Maryborough, which is council-owned land, commonly known as MKM site. The location on the MKM site would offer the organisation a range of benefits, including high visibility, better access, and more effective community organisation partnerships. F. This site has been vacant for many years with no other council planning for it, and its use as a community garden would add value to the community. Number 2, council accordingly resolved that the rear of the council-owned property at 53 Burn Street, Maryborough, known as the MKM site, be made available subject to planning approvals on a long-term lease basis to the Maryborough Community Garden for the purpose of developing a community garden and providing fresh, healthy produce to support the food security and nutritional needs of our community with a draft lease agreement developed by council officers in conjunction with the Maryborough Community Garden, Inc. B. The site to be made available to this organisation for this purpose is on a long-term lease of 3 by 3 by 3 equals 9 years, which will not preclude future use of the site by council in the event an appropriate opportunity eventuated and would consider a higher community benefit, with 6 months' notice to vacate the site if required. The CEO be requested to list the resulting lease agreement and other matters needing council approvals, which includes any planning approvals to give effect in these new arrangements.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Bartlett. Councillor Murphy, is there anyone opposing the amendment?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Murphy, that's Councillor Green opposing the amendment. Councillor Murphy, would you like to speak to this amendment?
The Maryborough Community Garden. I believe that this home for the MCG, Maryborough Community Garden, is a perfect fit at the rear of the MKM site. The old, and must I say, a bit derelict tennis courts. It's been well over 20 years, and I may be corrected by Councillor Barter, but I think it's been well over 20 years that there has been any use on this site. Council has no current use for it at present. The MCG will maintain the upkeep of the site and provide a garden for the whole community to be proud of. It fits in well with the playground area and the open grass area across the road. It has easy access for all. This is important to me. A councillor is elected by the community for the community to support the community. This is a worthwhile community project that I can clearly say, as a councillor, it will make a difference and a future for the site. We don't get many times to be what should happen or what we can do as councils, which we just saw in the grants. But this time, we have got a time when we can make a difference, move something to an area that hasn't been used for several years. Finally, in the words of a great person, that's not me, if we don't do now, when do we do? If we don't do it, when do we do it? When do we do things like this for the community? So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, we have to remove the red tape and let's get it done. Thank you.
Councillor Barber, the second.
Can I speak to that? Yep. Well, despite considerable efforts expanding the designated California Gully site as the base location for this organisation, the organisation still holds concerns that the location is unsuitable. That's what I've discovered. For the following variety of reasons, including inadequate size, restricting potential growth, lack of security fencing protecting the site from vandalism, poor accessibility for disabled and infirm, along with health and safety concerns regarding the roads adjacent and actually running through the site, and the sharing with community groups issues as well. The location, if they were to you approve this motion to relocate to the MKM site, and offer the organisation a range of benefits, including high visibility, room for growth, better access, and more effective community partnerships with Melbourne House, who are situated behind. It would enhance the station domain community precinct and add value to the community. As been fully discussed, the site's been vacant for since the radio station took up office in the community hub. I think it's quite 20 years, but it's been an awfully long time. And we as a council actually haven't maintained it in a spigot and expand manner. It's been an eyesore for years, and it would be my hope that people that were into gardening would actually keep the site tidy and clean and make it attractive to the community. So, I have no hesitation. Second on the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Do you wish to speak against the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Green?
I'm in furious agreement with the thrust of this amendment and the motion generally. I have nothing against community gardens generally, or specifically this garden. However, in its current form, as the amendment and also the motion, the setting, I want to make a few comments. And this is the reasons why I'm at this stage not agreeing to this motion I'm opposing. So I draw your attention to paragraph 2, subparagraph B, where we're talking about a long-term lease of 9 years. I submit that a 9-year lease for a very strategic, potentially strategic asset of the council requires careful consideration. As we go on through that clause, we see, and I'm not against the thrust of this, but it's the specifics where it states, and I read again, will not preclude future use of the site by council in the event of an appropriate opportunity eventuated. That to me is a bit uncertain. An appropriate opportunity requires further detail and agreement and clarity. Also, so I read on, same sentence, eventuated and was considered of a higher community benefit. And I'd just like to say, by way of question, considered by whom? In what way? When? How? And also we move on to the consideration of a higher community benefit. And these, a higher community benefit is a very subjective aim. It's a noble aim, but it's subjective. And in my submission, it's just too vague for me to agree to at this current stage. Then I'm coming up to the end of the sentence, called a 6 months notice period. And then there's another uncertainty with respect, and that is if required. And so if required, by whom, when, how, on what basis. So I just merely like to say that's the reason that I'm proposing it at this time, this current time.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Any other
Stressing this current time. Yeah.
Any other councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. A wise man once said, I'm betwixt and between, and I feel a little bit like that at the moment. I agree with Councillor Ben Green. It is a very prime piece of land that council owns, and there may be better uses for that. So I'm in agreement of this notice of motion on the proviso that the Maryborough Community Garden are aware of that fact, that should a strategic plan be done on this piece of land and another use for it can be found, as long as the Maryborough Community Garden are aware of that fact that it may not be their forever home. The other side of betwixt and between, I've just spent some time in Europe, and every country we visited had community gardens, and it sounds utopian, but it actually was to see 3-4 generations of families tend to their little plot. And my son and his partner, they had a little plot. It was 2 metres by 3 metres, and it was a bit overgrown. Could do with a bit of roundup, but we won't get into that. But just to see these families at night tending to their veggies, it was just amazing. And I thought, how wonderful would that be if a derelict piece of land at the moment be turned into something like this. So I will be supporting the notice of motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other councillor wish to speak? Well, I will speak to this. As a councillor, I cannot support this notice of motion or the amendment in its current form. Our fundamental obligation as elected representatives is to act in accordance with the legislative responsibilities outlined in the Local Government Act. Our focus must remain on strategic planning that supports the long-term benefit of the entire community and on upholding the principles of good governance. I understand that the CEO and indeed the officers have sought legal advice on this matter. In my view, approving this notice of motion and indeed amendment to the notice of motion would be inconsistent with our responsibilities as councillors and may expose council to unintended consequences. And I have a list here. It is essential that our decisions are legally sound, strategically aligned, and reflective of our duty to act in the best interest of the community as a whole. Thank you. I will put this amendment, notice of motion amendment to the vote.
Got a right.
A right of reply, sorry, Chair.
Is it? Okay,
No,
good.
right.
That's great.
No,
Right on.
I will put this to the vote. All in favour of the notice amendment, notice of notice amendment, please show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against, 5. Those against, 2. I call a division for this. Those in favour, Councillor Meyer, Councillor Murphy, Councillor de Villiers, Councillor Long, Councillor Bartlett. Those against, Councillor Green, Councillor Lavelle. Thank you very much. That is carried.
Thank you.
I will now, we move on. And the amendment comes to motion. And now I'll put the motion. Technicalities. We'll put the motion now. The amendment is the motion. All in favour of the motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against the motion, 2. We will call a division. Those for the motion, Councillor Meyer, Councillor Murphy, Councillor de Villiers, Councillor Long and Councillor Bartlett. Those against, Councillor Green, Councillor Lavelle. Thank you very much. That is carried. We now move on to item number 10, confidential business. There is no confidential business. Item number 11, urgent business. There is no urgent business. We come now to number 12, which is meeting closure. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I declare this meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.